1 month, 3 countries. This is Roger Watson, and this is my Connecting Continents column for the Reflections on Nursing Leadership magazine, and this is the entry of 6th of November 2018. For me, October started in Genoa, Italy, continued in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and ended in Washington. Mark Hayter, FAAN, my University of Hull and Journal of Advanced Nursing colleague, was with me in both Genoa and Washington. Mark and I were in Italy for the third time this year, fulfilling our visiting professorial arrangements at the University of Genoa. It's never a hardship to be there. We were doing our usual work of advising on research projects and publications, and teaching both undergraduate and postgraduate students. Our colleagues, under the leadership of Loredana Sasso, also a Fellow with the American Academy of Nursing, are currently engaged in seeking to establish a Sigma chapter at the university, the first in Italy. As usual, it was an enjoyable time, but also sobering. The expanse of the motorway Morandi Bridge that collapsed in August was clearly visible from the plane as we landed, and we had a very good view of it on the way from and to the airport. Everyone had a story to tell related to the disaster, either near-death escapes for themselves, friends and family, or of knowing someone who was injured or killed. The effect on the people of Genoa is palpable. The shock of the tragedy, as well as the shame associated with the poor workmanship and fear of similar disasters. I just received news of a terrible storm that hit the Ligurian coast and caused a great deal of destruction in Genoa. Saudi Arabia. This was my only visit to the kingdom this year, and it coincided with the current diplomatic row about which few can be unaware. Although the story in the kingdom about events in Turkey and the brutal slaughter of journalist Jamal Khashoggi differs from the prevailing one outside Saudi Arabia, life seemed to proceed as usual in Riyadh. Whatever our governments do and say, and whether or not we agree, there is always a place for personal interaction with people who are simply trying to do their best for their colleagues, their workplaces and their country. I was there at the invitation of the leadership of King Fahd Medical City to address its annual International Nursing Symposium. As is often the case, what happens between sessions and outside the conference is as important as the proceedings, and I was very pleased to catch up over dinner with Mustafa Bodrick, consultant in nursing education to the Saudi Commission for Health Specialities and chair of Sigma's Research and Scholarship Advisory Council. In addition to being a goldmine of information about Saudi Arabia, he knows the best restaurants in Riyadh. After spending the weekend in Riyadh, I returned to the UK for a week before travelling to Washington for what has become my annual visit to attend the American Academy of Nursing's Transforming Health Driving Policy Conference. Washington. Because the Academy's conference events hold less interest for non-US fellows than for their American counterparts, although we keep trying to establish a foothold, I forego attending them and I use most of my time in Washington to run, sightsee and visit friends. I was delighted, however, that Frank Schaefer, Fellow of American Academy of Nursing and President and Chief Executive Officer of CGFNS International, organised a reception for recently inducted international fellows and invited me to attend. I find the hotel lobby of the Academy's conference venue the ideal place to position myself and watch national and international stars of nursing mingle, and occasionally to pick off a few with whom I really want to speak. It was good to see Gennaro Rocco from Italy, a Fellow of the American Academy again. He was inducted last year. A new inductee, Alessandro Staviano, Associate Director of the International Council of Nursing's Nursing Health Policy team and a long-time friend of mine, accompanied him. Another new inductee, also well known to me, was Colonel Alan Finnegan, Fellow of the Royal College of Nursing, formerly of Queen Alexandra's Royal Army Nursing Corps, the QARANC. He met my daughter, Captain Lucia Watson, QARANC, in Afghanistan. The Saturday night event at which new fellows are inducted is not to be missed, and I was there this year to see my nominee, Madhya Panchkihar, inducted. She is the first Slovenian nurse to join the Academy. I loved Washington, and I was really pleased after a long spell of resting due to injury to repeat the 10k run I did last year. The course begins at the Washington Hilton, follows the Potomac to the Lincoln Memorial, then up 17th Street to Connecticut Avenue and back to the hotel. On Saturday morning I went down to Theodore Roosevelt Island in Virginia and took part in the 5k park run. My second time there and my third park run in the United States. After a week at home, I go to China for 3 weeks. This
podcast was produced in association with youpublicationslimited.com.